out of the race. With campsites starting to spring up around the overnight stop in the Kama Rhino Reserve outside Serowe, the lubrication equipment raceco, driven now by Books Carolyn, was first across the line. Carolyn was still going through finish line formalities when the Shell Superpave raceco, driven by Rob Walk, came steaming down the last stretch to the finish. Although he was second across the line, corrected time was to put Walk into a lead of around 6 minutes over the Carolyn car. It was a tremendous performance by Walk, who left the start in 15th place after a relatively slow time in the prologue the day before. While a tired but obviously happy Walk headed off to do some maintenance work on the raceco before taking a welcome shower, RP Reinicker and Lucas Dreyer were next up at the finish in the dealer Team Toyota Land Cruiser. Reinicker's no stranger to Botswana conditions after farming in the area for many years, and it was a typically workmanlike performance from the Springbok pair. As usual, there was a family welcoming committee for Reinicker and Dreyer, and while Reinicker's wife brought the crew up to date on who'd arrived at the finish line before them, the leading cars started to come in thick and fast. Next to appear were Nick Harper and Richard Hill in the Rockwell Porsche raceco. The pair also had an uneventful day and were well placed in the top 10. Matters had not gone so smoothly for Kasi Kutsi and Richard Leek in the Toyota Hilux. Shortly after the refuel, a differential problem saw the Hilux reduced to two-wheel drive, and that was a major disadvantage in the thick sand.
8 seconds left.
Okay, good luck. Thank you very much. Okay.
Leek looked cheerful enough, but the crew had lost valuable time. The Toyota didn't sound too healthy, and service crews had some work ahead of them. Corrected time put Rob Walk in the raceco ahead of the Carolyn car. Lambert and Scholz were followed by the Sulwalts with the first 4 cars special vehicles. A tremendous performance saw Barker and Redden in 5th place and leading the commercial vehicle class ahead of Reinicker and Dreyer. When the first of the motorcycles arrived at the overnight stop, no one was surprised to see it was Alfie Cox on the Pro Action Castrol KTM in the lead. A still fresh-looking Cox had made up 4 places, but more important, had opened up a sizable gap on the second-place rider. Second across the line was Daryl Curtis on the Winston Yamaha, but on corrected time, he was around 7 minutes behind Cox.
Gone. Walk the bar. Xbox One. Yes. Walk the club. Daryl. Give him. Yeah, take a killer here. No.
Hey, well then.
Shell off. No ticket.
The next rider in was Graham Mclaughlin. A place in the top 5 overnight had many people wondering whether or not history would repeat itself with a 200 machine taking overall honours. A comfortable overnight lead for Alfie Cox with 3 minutes separating Daryl Curtis, Alan Julian and Graham Mclaughlin. Cox led the 250 class, Mclaughlin the 200 class and Carl LaRue the 500 class. For crews and service teams, a long day was not yet over. For some, maintenance was a relatively trouble-free job, but for others, the repairs were major. While all around them, big or small repair work was going on, a lucky few of the competitors could stand around and have a chat about the day's proceedings. For some, the day's work was over, and they could relax around a welcome campfire. Camaraderie is one of the major attractions off-road racing holds for competitors, and at overnight stops, everyone pitches in to help. The sport also attracts some flamboyant characters, but out in the bush, no one really cares. Cliff Barker and former off-road champion Paddy Driver, forced to withdraw from the desert race at the last minute, discussed some of the finer details of off-road racing. Others were starting to think of their stomachs. With dawn breaking over Botswana, it was time for competitors to start thinking of another tough day ahead. The second racing section would see crews retrace their steps along the same 500-kilometre route from the overnight stop to the finish in Gaborone. Surprise, surprise, it was another early morning start with Robert Walk leading away the pack.
The big thing is to try and not have any problems with the car. If you can stay in the car and not get out, should be plain sailing.
Bucks Carolyn was entrusted with the first driving stint in the lubrication equipment raceco, with brother Richard set to take over at the refuel. Day one casualty Klaus Degener was forced into the role of a spectator as Carolyn set sail.
It's going to be difficult. I thought yesterday I may have pulled enough time on them, but obviously that 6 minutes is going to be hard to catch up.
Despite his 6-minute cushion over the Carolyn brothers, Walk knew he'd have to push hard all the way. While everyone is aiming to cross the finish line first, the off-road scoring system this year provides for races within a race. The special vehicle and production vehicles categories are scored separately, and drivers and crews are also fighting it out for overall victory in their respective categories. The Carolyns, the Sulwalds and other special vehicle crews in the top 10 all still had a chance of catching Walk if the Shell Superfave raceco picked up problems. For the Carolyn brothers, there was only one tactic, and that was to attack as hard as they could. Bucks, the younger of the brothers, was doing just that. Behind the Carolyns, the Sulwalds, driver Herman and navigator Karl Heinz, were also making a bold bid to close the gap on Walk. The Sulwalds passed the Lambert car, which was in trouble, and the race was on, and everybody knew it. In the production vehicle class, it was a straight fight between Cliff Barker and Mike Redden in the AAD Land Rover and Toyota crew R.P. Reiniker and Lucas Dreyer in the dealer team Land Cruiser.
Our plan is obviously to try and win the class. And the two Toyotas are there, so we must chase them if we're behind them.
For Reiniker and Dreyer, it was also a case of full-on attack.
Waar ons voordeel het in die sand met die vierwieldryf is dat waar jy nou in skerp draaie ingaan, kan jy sien dat die spysvrames baie sukkel om uit die draaie uit te kom. Hulle skop geweldig baie. En dit kan naderhand tot nadeel vir hulle wees, dat hulle CV's miskien kan gaan. En waar ons miskien vinniger met die vierwieldryf uitkom, maar ek dink ons het gelykomskanse. Ander plekke weer, as jy het ons reguit seksies gekry wat baie dik sand was, maar met wobbles in. Waar ons omtrent sê maar 120 km/h kan doen, dink ek doen hulle in die omgewing van omtrent 150 oor daai selfe terrein. So daar het hulle weer 'n voordeel bo ons.
And what of Alfie Cox?
I've got about 8 minutes lead on the next guy, and I think that basically just to keep it rolling today, keep up your speed, not have any problems. And I think 8 minutes is quite a long way, and try and keep on the course. Don't make any mistakes. Take some wrong turns, because that you lose time very quickly.
Second place, Daryl Curtis picked up gearbox problems on day one and was worried this would hold him up.
It just means I'll be okay for the first half of today. The second half gets a bit faster, so I'm going to lose out. I'll have no top end.
With overnight 200 class leader Graham Mclaughlin falling by the wayside, Clayton Ensland found himself involved in a major battle with Atti Hofmeyer in the 200 class. Less than a minute separated the pair, and while they were fighting it out, Vickers van Deventer was starting to pull away from Billy Coetzee in the quad racer category. The race had taken its toll on the quads, and van Deventer and Coetzee were the only runners left. Approaching the refuel point, the race had taken a dramatic turn. Bucks Carolyn had taken the lubrication equipment raceco into the lead. Now that he was in front, Carolyn was pushing hard to try and give brother Richard a cushion at the driver change at the refuel. Carolyn took over the lead when Walk lost time through a puncture. Walk was also flat out to try and regain lost ground. Not far behind the Shell Superpave raceco, the Sulwald brothers had moved into third place in another raceco. Matters were hotting up. Defending champions John Lambert and Eric Scholz were gradually falling behind in the Digidor, but Cliff Barker and Mike Redden were going like the clappers in the AAD Land Rover. Hot on their heels were Reiniker and Dreyer, with a tremendous battle developing between the two crews, with the prize overall honours in the commercial vehicle category. With their differential problem solved, Kasi Coetzee and Richard Leek were slowly gaining ground in the dealer team Toyota Hilux. They were still a long way behind Barker and company, but Coetzee was as cheerful as ever.
Cut the motor.
Thank you. Drink that stuff. You check what happened to Maradona.
No, that's what I got motor in. I'm scared. Listen, like making you.
I'll go that. I will break too late.
You'll make the World Cup.
After his driving stint, Brooks Carolyn stayed on at the refuel to help out other crews.
Going according to plan, we had to catch Rob by 6 minutes. He had a puncture and then we pulled another 6 odd minutes on him. So if we can just maintain that pace, we'll be there.
While Alfie Cox went on his merry way out in front on the Pro Action Castrol KTM, Daryl Curtis was starting to struggle a little on the Winston Yamaha.
I'm battling a bit with the gearing. Otherwise, everything's fine.
Made any difference with the change in the sprocket?
Yeah, it's perfect now. Much better.
6 minutes and 15
We
seconds.
actually made a little bit of the dust is bad behind the cars. Otherwise, it's not too bad. They're fairly spaced out.
All right.
That's okay.
Okay, that's it. Daryl. 6 minutes, 15 seconds. You can catch that up now, right? You've only made 45 seconds in 250 k's. You're sleeping.
As Curtis headed back into the fray, the battle in the car category had taken another dramatic turn. Rob Walk was back in the lead in the Shell Super Pave Raceco after Obert Carolyn picked up a puncture 40 kilometres from the finish. Those who maintain that marathon events like the Toyota 1000 Desert Race are won and lost over the last 100 kilometres was starting to make sense. At the final control point, Carolyn was still in touch with Walk and trying desperately to close the gap. Behind the unfortunate Obert, tension was also starting to build. Cliff Barker and Mike Redden in the AAD Land Rover were still involved in a tremendous struggle in the commercial vehicle category, with R.P. Reiniker and Lucas Dreyer in the Toyota Land Cruiser. Barker and Redden, after starting in 51st position on day one, had performed heroics. The pair had stormed their way through the field and looked to have the commercial vehicle category safely wrapped up when drama struck yet again. Reiniker and Dreyer almost took the wrong road at a tricky route schedule instruction, but quickly recovered. Barker and Redden, also penalised 15 minutes for a technicality, were not so lucky and lost another 15 minutes when they strayed off the route. But spare a thought for Richard Carolyn. A second puncture was a cruel blow, and after leading at the refuel, Obert and Brother Bucks finally found themselves down in 5th position. In all the action, Reiniker and Dreyer had moved into 2nd place, with Herman and Karl-Heinz Sulwald only seconds behind them in the Sulwald Vervoer Raceco. Back on the right route after their excursion off the correct course, Barker and Redden were right behind the Sulwald brothers, with the race developing into something of a lottery over the last 40 kilometres. There were no last-minute panics for motorcycle category leader Alfie Cox. The Italian was serenely on his way to a comfortable win. 10 minutes behind Cox, a brave Curtis was battling along on the Winston Yamaha, with a steady ride on the Pro Honda taking Alan Julian into 3rd place. A magnificent race of fluctuating fortunes was finally settled when Rob Walk brought the Shell Super Pave Raceco home to a popular win. It was Walk's 2nd national championship victory and only his 2nd race outing this year. Behind a delighted Walk, the Reiniker Dreyer family fan club went wild when the dealer team Toyota Land Cruiser crossed the line 2nd overall and victorious in the commercial vehicle category.
Just before refuel, I had a puncture, and I was, well, I don't know how many minutes behind Obert, but I managed to catch him in about half an hour, and then I just stayed in front.
The Sulwald cousins brought their racecar home in 3rd place, but it was Reiniker who summed up the tension of the final day of a great race.
Van al die veldrenne wat ek aan deelgeneem het, was dit die strafste kompetisie wat ek nog ooit gehad het, want ons het minimale tyd gestaan en ons het regtig 'n stywe pas aangesit. En ons kon net nie die voorste ons vang nie. Ons het hulle hier op die einde, hier op nommer 99 kon verbygaan.
It took Alfie Cox 9 years to win the Toyota 1000 Desert Race. He made it 2 in a row with a convincing victory on the Pro Action Castrol KTM.
I've had quite a good run today. The marking's been excellent and that's helped the front runners a hell of a lot. The dust wasn't so bad today because there are not so many cars on the way. But I think for the back cars racing in the dust coming home is going to be pretty dangerous.
Second man home in the motorcycle category was Daryl Curtis on the Winston Yamaha after a race fraught with gearbox problems. A great overall win and victory in the special vehicle category for Rob Walk, and behind him all sorts of drama. R.P. Reiniker and Lucas Dreyer clinched the commercial vehicle category after a tremendous battle with Cliff Barker and Mike Redden. 2 in a row for Alfie Cox with 250 class machines in the first 4 places. Ati Hofmeyer took the 200 class just 42 seconds ahead of Clayton Ensland, with Carl LaRue taking the 500 category. Toyota is proud to be associated with the Toyota 1000 Desert Race and salutes the winners in all the categories of one of the toughest events in the world.